I'm guessing that a few of you are glad that the Google search didn't exist when you were teenagers and young adults.
Oh, yeah.
I was just listening to that testimony. I want to thank you for your honesty, man. In that, you know, the work that God does in our lives is bigger than those things. And the redemption that God has for us, thankfully, for many of us, extends beyond our teens and 20s and 30s or whatever. And I'm thankful for that. I would guess that many of you are thankful for that. We were at a concert, we went to a concert in Lexington here on Friday night, and I'm guessing many of those people are extremely thankful for that. It was a Grateful Dead reunion, kind of, I don't know, extended show, and there were enough old hippies in there, and probably enough pot smoke, you know, of 40 years or something that it just showed on some of those people. But they were great people, and they're awesome, but no, it's good to hear testimonies about what God does, in the sense that we need to be reminded that we are always, you know, in that place to extend that grace to others. And that's something that I was actually reminded of, just Andrea was talking about that as before we walked in. And it, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a son or a daughter or a cousin or your kids or whoever it is, we need that grace. I need that grace. You need that. We need that grace. Tonight I'm going to be short, which is, I have a I don't know. I probably went long today. I don't know how long I spoke, but it was too long. And I can tell because people get restless and whatnot. But tonight's going to go short, so I'm just going to ease your minds. And I'm going to take you back. I have a certain fascination with the year I was born. And I decided to do this talk on kind of the year I was born, which doesn't really make any sense because none of us know anything without any track record or memories of the year that we're born, right? Science tells us we pick stuff up at kind of 3, 4, you know, whatever you think your earliest memory is. Sometimes people think it's like 2, or it might be possible. I don't know. I don't know if it's possible. But we don't really have any knowledge of the year we're born. But it doesn't mean we can't like learn about it and reach back. And I have a fascination with 1982, in part because of this next slide, and this is just kind of the title slide. But I have a question for you. Can anyone, and no one behind there can guess, but can anyone guess what movie this slide is from? And it's this is a really tough one. It's a tough one. So it's someone's eye, it's in the film, and there's kind of like an explosion. Anybody? Okay, I'll give you one more. I'm going to give you one more. Sorry, the baby's being passed, so it is going to take a second. One more slide.
We lost the binky.
Anybody?
Yes.
Does anyone know this film?
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. I happen to think, so I'm going to make a bold claim, and you're going to disagree with me. I happen to think that Blade Runner might be the greatest film in the history of time. And here's kind of why. Blade Runner tells us about a future that had not yet happened, and it was right about it. Which is kind of an amazing thing when you think about it. A book written, you know, I think it was written kind of sometime in was it the late 60s? It was adapted to screenplay, taken up as a film. It's a 1982 film about AI, which we're now kind of in. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Now it talks about robots and replicants, and so it's got all kinds of weird, unbelievable things. It does have flying cars, which we don't have yet, but they say are on the way, which is kind of, you know, neat to think about. And I happen to think this is one of the greatest films of all time. I don't know. If you've seen it, you know, you can disagree or whatever. But I do like the film. And so we'll go to what's next here, because in 1982, in addition to the film, we have these as the top 4 songs the week that I'm born. Which, you know, take a look at the list. So hard for me to say, you know, what is it? It's hard for me to say I'm sorry, right? Chicago. And then we get Eye of the Tiger, Survivor. So that is an interesting song because it comes off Rocky 3, right? So that's actually propels Rocky 3. That's a 1982 film. Abra, cadabra, I wanna reach out. Pretty creepy song when you think about that Steve Miller Band song. And our very own Mike and Diane for John Cougar Mellencamp's song, Jack and Diane. This is, you know, know, when you think about the Billboard Top, so we don't really have the Billboard Top 100 anymore. But when you think about the Billboard Top 100, Top 100, this is a pretty good list of the top 4 songs the week I was born. And it's like, it's kind of an interesting time period. 1982 is when I was born, September. And so we'll go to the next one. This is a list of the films that kind of came out that year. So we got E.T., that was number 2. The number 1 film was actually Officer and a Gentleman. But I kind of attribute that to, I guess that would be what? Is it Richard Gere? I think okay. So he's kind of a heartthrob, and I don't think it's, I don't know. If you love the film, I'm sorry, I didn't put it on this list. But yeah, Star Wars re-releases, that of course from 78, but it comes out again in 82 because they're anticipating Return of the Jedi. Raiders of the Lost Ark was re-released, so it came out in 81. They still had it, or re-released it or something. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Tron, Annie, Rocky 3, and Poltergeist. That's a pretty good list of movies. I mean, you know, there's some horror and, I don't know, not all of those are all that watchable, but it's a pretty good list of movies. No? Oh, sorry, someone was saying something like they either hate that list or think, no?
No.
Okay, I mean, you know, it's not a bad list. Okay, help me out with the next slide. Okay, so 1982 fashion is a little, it probably didn't land. Okay, so like these, now this look probably carried through maybe like an 85, but you can see a couple things here that I think are interesting. There's kind of a pivot from disco. Okay, so disco, you know, what, 76 through, what, 80? 81 maybe? And this is kind of pivoting off that, going, you know, bold colors, you know, we got some stripes and, you know, I don't know, business casual is kind of big. This is kind of, I think, you know, you think about the movie like Mr. Mom, I think it comes out like 84, 85, is that right? I think that's right, I don't know. So keep going, so we're gonna run through some fun fashion. I don't know, this didn't really land, right? But bold colors, solids. Now, the second picture we're going to talk about, because it is the rise of kind of urban culture, which you know, rap culture and the early 80s have beatbox culture and breakdancing, and there's some interesting things that kind of lead to that mid-80s. So the next slide. So again, you know, bold colors, lots of like primaries together. I don't know, would you guys wear that? I don't, okay, I'm seeing some heavy, no, okay, don't wear that. It's terrible. Now, if you found this in the thrift store, it might be worth like $50 on eBay. So buy it, maybe don't wear it, but like, and then so on the right, you see Run DMC, which obviously hip hop's kind of taking off. They're sitting in Queens, and that's kind of urban culture in 82. And then is there any more fashion slides? We're good, okay. So there you have it, my fascination with 82. Now, like I said, I wasn't there, I don't remember it. But in some ways, and I'm gonna just pull some notes because I got a couple quick things and we'll let you go. And the other thing I want to do is thank you guys. So I had been in a 2-piece acoustic band. You guys have many iterations. You got like a 4-piece, 5-piece, and have done electric stuff and bigger shows and loud shows and acoustic stuff. I was in a 2-piece acoustic band, and I love it, and I love you. You guys are amazing, first of all, and thank you. My wife missed half of it, and they had a separate game, and so I'll fill her in later. But yes, they have merch, buy that, support them. Thank you for coming out and supporting the music tonight. Thank you for Memories for hosting. I'm gonna drop a quote on you here before we go into some scripture, and I kind of explain what I'm talking about real quick. This is the quote. You could not be born at a better period than the present. Okay? You could not have been born at a better period than the present, when we have lost everything. Pretty interesting quote. This is a quote from 1943. Okay? So it's right at the end of World War II. It's a quote by Simone Weil, who's just kind of an odd French, I don't know. She's just an interesting character. But you could not have been born at a better period than the present, when we've lost everything. And here's what I think she's trying to say. Loss is kind of a collective, and can be a sort of universal condition, right? There's the loss of stability, the loss of culture, maybe even 1982, you think about the loss of this fashion style, or those films, or stability, the loss of peace. Social media, I think, brings out some loss in our culture. Some people are mourning the loss of our nation. Maybe prematurely, maybe not. But you can sort of lose, I think you can sort of lose the feel of a nation. I think that that's probably true for many people. And help me out, if you're older than I am, if you're older than 41, 42, do you feel like in some ways, some of America, or America for you, there's some loss? Would anyone agree with that? That it feels different maybe than 1982 does in some ways. Would you agree with that maybe? I think that's probably true. I think people in their 50s, 60s, 70s go, there was an America that was different for me growing up, different for us, when we raised kids, or living in the 80s or 90s or whatever that decade was. But I suspect, and here's kind of my bold claim, I'm going to suggest that this is the finest hour to live as a Christian individual. And here's why I'm kind of making that claim. Because in the last 500 years, the Christian world has changed pretty rapidly. And I think in America, we know that it's changed, right? So we've got the founding of the Republic, we've got the revivals, we've got the growth of the mainline churches, and Frankfurt has been through all of these periods in that there's like a large church culture. The majority of people are attending church in certain years, right? So you have kind of this boom. Even the baby boom generation experienced a lot of this in the 40s and 50s and 60s in America, where a majority of people attended church. And it's not the case right now, right? If you don't know the statistics, they're not good. Church attendance is down, church adherence is down, scandals. There's less interest in the church in our generation than there might have been in the last 150 years or something, which is crazy to think about. But here's the opportunity, and here's where I'll bring it home, and we'll get to some scripture, and this will all come together. At the same point, the light of the gospel, I don't think has ever been brighter than 2024. I don't think it has been. Why? Because there might be a church in every corner of this town, or the 70s had people attending, or they knew more about the Lord, or there was sort of Christendom, or a feel of that in this place or in this country. There certainly was where I grew up in the Dakotas. People just went to church, and they seemed to kind of know the Lord in an abstract sense. But I get the sense that as I was growing up, and maybe as you were growing up, that people didn't really know the Lord. Right? That there was something about attending church, or maybe just living in community, that led people to kind of attend church, or be in church culture, or take their kids to a church, or drop them off at a church, or have a church daycare, whatever it is, that somehow there might have been something missing about what it means to be a Christian in 1960 or 1950. And I think that missing component is a sort of loss of, that we experience now is that sort of loss, right? That right now, the benefits of going to a church and calling Christ your Savior and professing Christ through music or through what you do at your work, I think there's something different about it in 2024. Because I think it's getting harder to do that. And I think that among youth, and I think that among my generation certainly, kind of that, people buying houses now and having kids, or even beyond that, kids in high school, it's less cool than ever. And I think people have less, they're just doing it less. And they're just professing Christ less. But I think that when I look around this room and I think about, and just having met many of you, and I think about your life of faith, I think it's sincere. And I think that it will become increasingly sincere in the next decade. I think it will get tougher. I think it will get harder to be a Christian in America. I think a good indication of that, and something I think about just in relation to the fall, I did make one political statement this morning, and I should have prefaced that. I don't really have a dog in the fight in November's election. And what I mean by that is this. If you would have told anyone in 1982, there's going to be two people running for president. Cool. Yep, that's, two-party system. Okay, I get it. No. Okay. They're both going to be above, they're going to be in their 80s. Be like, okay? Be like, hold on, there's more. One of them has kind of some memory loss, it seems to be getting fuzzy, and then the other one is going to be charged with multiple felonies the year of the election. I think everyone would have thought, you're absolutely insane. No? I mean, I listen to the story about the fall in this country and what we know. It's going to get nasty. Let me warn you, the fall's going to be nasty. I don't care what side you're on, it doesn't matter. This fall is going to get nasty. Okay, so buckle in. But here's the opportunity. I don't have much faith in the fall to change this country. I don't. If you just said, will the fall election change the nation? I'd say, I don't think so. Why? Because I think that we can sort of see this cultural decline, and people are sort of nervous, and there's fear out there and all of that. And so my challenge is tonight, and here's the end of the thing, I'm going to wrap it up. In that culture of fear, the church has an opportunity to love. Love drives out all fear. I'm not afraid of the fall. I'm not afraid of the election. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat and have been a Democrat, you're and all the way back, and you've got to vote Democrat, and you love Biden. It doesn't matter if you're the opposite side and you voted Republican since Reagan, and you love him and you love Trump. It doesn't matter. This fall will get nasty, and our hope is elsewhere. I really believe that. I think our hope is somewhere else. I'm going to just put up some verses here. This is a message. So this is from 1 Peter 4, and another very difficult period. Probably somewhere around 60, 70 AD. Things were not good for the church. Okay, even though it was starting off, and we have the apostolic era. This is just a very set of practical things I think we can learn from tonight. The end of all things is near. How many would agree with that? I would say the end of all things is near. Okay? It's obviously nearer now than it was in 60 AD. This is true. The end is near. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind, so that you might pray. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to each other and to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift that you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, this is the last slide. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength that God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. And this is the end here. The reason, what I think that these verses are actually saying, kind of, if you just had to distill it down, is basically this. In light of the end, if things get tough, and I think they will, and I think they are, and have, okay? Don't give in to fear. And essentially just dig into love. Okay? Encourage one another. Like, live generously. Which is not easy to do in tough times. It's not easy to do in 2024. Live generously. Give of your time. Give of your gifts. Be yourself, your best self for others. And that's, I think that's what Christians are called to do. I think that that's increasingly what we have to do in our age. But yeah, thank you guys for coming out tonight. It's encouraging to these bands. It's encouraging to this church. And again, thank you to Memories for hosting. We're headed back to Colorado tomorrow, and you know, I basically told everyone, even if this stinks or you hate me or something, like, what are you going to do? I'm flying on a plane tomorrow. I'm leaving. So I'm leaving town. And so what are you going to do? Let's, run us out of town. We do have a cute baby, which will make up for some of that. And so we'll be passing around. But